I have with me Nikunj Turakhia. Nikunj Turakhia is the General Secretary, Industry and Trade. He is from the Chamber of Associations of Maharashtra Industry and Trade. Nikunj, welcome to the show. Tell me this, what is happening on ground? We are 1 month away from that big announcement of demonetization. It's been 1 month since then. Has anything changed? Has the situation really eased on ground? What is happening?
I think unfortunately the situation on ground level is not at all any different from what when it started, and I think the government seems to be ill prepared to, really with the demonetization. Perhaps they have announced it in a hurry, and Professor is very correct in saying that today it is the lower strata of the society which is being affected maximum, And see, India is an agriculture-based economy, and here India, the total GDP growth is dependent on our...
Nikunj, tell me what is happening in trade. What is really happening? Now, the governor was very clear that they are printing more 50 rupees and 100 rupees notes. They are trying their level best to ensure that enough change reaches banks and ATMs. Is there enough change in the system when people come to the markets, when there is trade happening between farmers, between traders? Is there money being exchanged? What is really happening?
So what is enough change here? Recently, our power minister had made a presentation at BSE, and I was present during that. And they said that the higher denomination notes in 2007 were 68%, and now in 2016 is 86%. And that is why that was the main cause for announcing demonetization. But how much they are going to again put in more...
Let's go beyond the numbers here. Yeah. What is happening on ground? What is happening in our markets?
See, market currently has come to a standstill. Nobody is dealing at all because they cannot deal. You cannot expect Indian economy to go from cash-based economy to cashless economy. There is no economy in the world which is cashless. We can have a lower cash economy, but that will take time. The digitization would take time, and that has to be given more time. I don't think it is like, you have put a spanner in the wheel. And today, in fact, today the governor, RBI governor, they have given the GDP growth rate to 7.1 from 7.6. But I feel that the GDP would be tremendously affected, and the next 2 quarters are going to be very, very tough.
Professor, I would like to bring you in on that point now. One point that the RBI governor clearly made, and which the government has also been saying time and again, is that one of the biggest collateral benefits, is what it's being called, will be the shift towards a digitized economy. Do you think India as a whole, and when I say India, I include Bharat over here, is Bharat ready to move to a digitized economy? Can we go digital?
You see, all right, Kavita, going digital and demonetizing currencies and introducing new currencies, these are all different basket of issues. You do not have to bring the country to a cashless economy abruptly overnight like a switch. There are 1.3 billion people involved, 70% of them earning less than $2 a day probably. Now, under the circumstances, to say that digitizing India is a collateral benefit, what about the collateral damages? What about the fact, in fact, I agree with Mr. Nikunj that the fall in the GDP will not be just 0.5%. It's more likely to be in the range of 1 to 2%, at least 1.5%, at least. It's likely to be more. Now, under the circumstances, if you talk about a collateral benefit, also look at what your collateral damage is going to be. Just convert that 2% into a multiplier of what the GDP is and you get the number. So what benefit are we talking about?
Right. What benefit
If any, is going to be wiped out by the sheer cost. The cost is not only in terms of the reduction in the GDP, it is also reduction in terms of the deaths that we have, some people have faced, the kind of tragedies people have gone through, the kind of time people have had to waste, the kind of stresses those have been created, the kind of livelihoods that have been killed, which are not clawback economies. You see, at the higher socioeconomic strata, you can always postpone consumption. So if I don't buy a car this month, I can buy a car 3 months later. But at the lower socioeconomic strata, what is lost today is gone. There is no clawback available. So who is worried about all those costs? There is a human cost element involved apart from the GDP costs. So what collateral benefit is Urjit Patel talking about?
Not just collateral benefit, look at the collateral damage as well. I'll bring the digital question back to you, Nikunj. There is talk of APMCs going digital. There is talk of, we hear that in Karnataka, the state markets are going digital. In Maharashtra, there's talk of an e-wallet. How soon do you actually see traders migrating or adopting these modes of transaction?
I think it's a far cry. It is going to take much longer than what is expected of them. And, maybe the government is very optimistic, because if you see the Indian, as such, everybody of us, we have a lot of inertia. We are not prone to change. We don't like to change. And, expecting such a huge change is, asking too much. This is what I feel. But at the same time, in the same breath, I want to mention that it is a very bold step. Whatever the government is saying, that it is short-term pain and long-term gains, what is that period, what we are calling short-term, and when the economy gets back to its own stride, which it was happening, that is yet to be seen, And maybe the government will have to take few more very populistic measures to turn the tide, because now you need to put the economy back into its, as a running economy.
Right, you need to bring the economy back into gear. Professor Raghunathan, last question to you, last word to you, sir. Tell me this, the first few weeks of demonetization were marked by flip-flops. There was a lot of chaos. People didn't know what is allowed today may not really be allowed tomorrow. The RBI was sending out conflicting notifications. Today, after what the governor spoke, and we've seen the amount of notifications coming out from the RBI also reducing over time, from the finance ministry also reducing over time. Do you think that the government is more in control now of the situation? Will they be able to preempt any more obstacles that could come their way?
Come on, Kavita, now we can't pat the government on the back for reducing the number of contradicting notifications a month after announcing the move. That's the least that we should expect of a functioning government. In fact, what we have witnessed is much less than what one would expect of a functioning government and the functioning central bank and so on. So obviously the whole move has been so shoddily driven, and if Urjit Patel says that he's been behind it and that he has thought through it, I think people should be asking for his head. He should ideally be resigning, because what he has done is an embarrassment not only to himself, he doesn't seem to be caring, but it's an embarrassment to the country. We are a laughing stock when we tell the consulates that your weekly limit is 50,000 rupee on cash. Sure enough, Russia and many other governments have written some nasty notes to the government that it's not even enough back home for us to have one decent dinner, leave alone a whole overheads of a consulate for a whole week. So where are we living? We've been talking about the benefit in terms of controlling black money, but BJP has done very little to control the black money of its own political funding. So I think we need to worry about also the fact that our calls drop 6 times within 1 minute.
Exactly, Professor. I will have to cut you off there because we are
getting the connectivity.
Right, Professor. I'll have to cut you off there because we are running out of time on the show over here. But one thing is clear: the RBI governor today made it very clear that demonetization was not a hasty decision. It was a well thought out, planned out process. But of course, the question that everybody is asking is, where really is the planning? 1 month after demonetization, people are still standing in queues outside banks and ATMs. Trade is still at a standstill across mandis, across markets, and it is a small man, the common man on the street, who is the worst hit. And this, of course, we are coming to an end of the big story over here. Professor Raghunathan, thank you very much for joining us. Nikunj Turakhia, thank you very much for coming in and for joining us on the show. This is, of course, we have to end the big story over here, but this is a story that we will constantly keep tracking on Magic Bricks Now. Thank you for watching.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/magicbricksnow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at magicbricksnow. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/magicbricksnow.